The Pahalgam terror attack is the big story that we have been tracking since yesterday evening, and we will be bringing you this rolling coverage all day today as well. Meanwhile, beginning with the latest, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has returned to India, cutting short his visit to Saudi Arabia. He has held a high-level meeting with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, as well as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar this morning at the airport itself to discuss the situation following the terror attack in Pahalgam. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri was also part of this meeting. Now remember, terrorists struck a prime tourist location of Pahalgam in South Kashmir yesterday, killing non-Muslim tourists in cold blood. The dead included even 2 foreigners from UAE as well as Nepal. Now, Home Minister Amit Shah had rushed to Jammu and Kashmir last night to spearhead the security measures following the most gruesome recent terror attack targeting tourists in the valley. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called the attack a heinous act, vowing those behind it will not be spared. The evil agenda of terrorists, he says, will never succeed. Meanwhile, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has also condemned the massacre, calling it a dastardly act. He said those responsible will face the harshest consequences. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah called it the worst civilian attack in years. These terrorists are not humans, they're animals, he said, adding this is much larger than anything ever seen before. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is also returning to India, cutting short her 11-day visit to US and Peru. Now, following the terror attack in Pahalgam, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will depart for India at the earliest, according to an official statement this morning by the Ministry of Finance on Twitter. Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, will be cutting short her official visit to USA and Peru. She is taking the earliest available flight back to India and will be with our people in this difficult and tragic time. This is the tweet on X by the Finance Ministry. Now remember, the terrorists had opened fire at a famed meadow near Kashmir's Pahalgam town yesterday. Most of those killed were tourists. The terror attack sent shockwaves in the country and drew widespread condemnation and outrage. Let's look at also what global leaders are saying at this moment about this terror attack on Indian soil. Let's begin first with the President of United States, Donald Trump, who has condemned the attack. Donald Trump also spoke to Prime Minister Modi on the phone and also posted on social media that the United States stands strong with India against terrorism. He offered Prime Minister Modi and the people of India his full support and deepest sympathies. Well, it's not just Donald Trump. The sympathies are coming from across the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin called it a brutal crime that has no justification whatsoever. He said that organizers and perpetrators should face the deserved punishment while offering sympathies to the Indian people. Well, that is Vladimir Putin, but Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, also took on to X and said that Italy expresses its closeness to the families in India affected, the injured, as well as the government and all the people here in India. Meanwhile, EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen called it a wild terror attack and said that Europe will stand strong with India in this ordeal. US Vice President J.D. Vance, who is still in India, has called it a horrific attack and said that over the past few days, he and his wife Usha have been overcome with the beauty of India. Well, let's get in some latest news this morning. Joining me first on the show is my colleague Deepak Badana from the newsroom. Deepak Badana, we still don't really know officially if any unit, any wing has taken the responsibility behind this attack. But then, of course, there were these reports which you checked were not authentic. But yet there are reports that the resistance front could have been potentially behind this attack. Tell us what you know about the resistance front so far.
Good morning, Karthik. So let's come first to the statement. Now, there's a statement by the Resistance Front which is doing the rounds presently. However, it doesn't seem to be authentic because it departs from the kind of style and language that they generally use, insofar as the term and terminology used by these groups. However, sources are saying that the resistance group may be one of the responsible for this. The resistance group is, in fact, a proxy for the Lashkar-e-Taiba. It was formed in 2019, right around the time Article 370 was revoked, and you may recall that this was the time when Pakistan was facing a lot of heat due to the FATF grey list. Now, this was the time where these proxies or these terrorist groups came up with a strategy. What they would do is they would rename themselves under seemingly, less than harmful names such as the Resistance Front, and this was an attempt to hide the true nature of these organizations. So they would therefore try to give this militancy a secular face and at the same time create a sort of plausible deniability for Pakistan, so that none of their actions could be linked to the LAT and by that account the Jamaat al-Dawa, which is presently headed by Hafiz Saeed based in Pakistan. Now TRF has traditionally always targeted soldiers and security personnel. However, in its desperation, it has gone after civilians as well. And in this attack, which is the largest ever in decades, they've gone after tourists, particularly the last such attack was actually last year. That was also rare because at that point they had attacked pilgrims who were going to the Amarnath pilgrimage.
Right.
Furthermore, it's presently headed by Sheikh Sajjad Gul, who is TRF's top commander. He again is based out of Pakistan, from where he directs these operations, and from there he receives the backing of the Pakistani deep state. Lastly, this organization was banned in January 2023. NIA had since placed a bounty on Sajjad Gul.
All right, Deepak, stay with us. We will bring you back into this discussion. I also have Major General Asthana joining me this morning. I will come to Major General Asthana in just a bit. But before that, in a powerful display of resilience and unity, people from various parts of Jammu and Kashmir organized candlelight protests to show sympathy for the tourists targeted in the Pahalgam area of the Anantnag district yesterday. Now, locals in Pahalgam came together for a peaceful march expressing solidarity with the victims and sending a global message of peace. The march, which included youth, shopkeepers, poniwalas and hotel owners, started in the town square with participants carrying candles and placards reading, "We stand for peace and tourists are our guests." The procession moved through the main market, ending in the Lidder River, where a moment of silence was held for the victims. Let's cut across now to Major General Asthana, who's with us on this broadcast. Major General Asthana, tourism is something that the people of Jammu and Kashmir were hoping, as Article 370 was revoked, that this is something that is going to pick up and is going to serve as a source of employment and livelihood to the terror-impacted valley area. Well, those dreams seem shattered now, and despite that, we have candlelight protests where peace is something that the people of Jammu and Kashmir are hoping for. Is peace ever going to be a solution in Jammu and Kashmir?
See, this attack is a direct attack on the livelihood of the people of Kashmir. And therefore, the response also, the way you see, is coming up because nobody would like their livelihood to be taken away. And certainly peace is necessary and is required. One attack, I don't think, should be able to disrupt the development and the peacefulness of Kashmir because India is a strong country and we will be able to take on this attack with suitable response, very strong response, and a strong response is necessary both ways, external response as well as internal response. Now, externally, certainly there are many options on the table. I'm sure with the visuals which you just showed, the seriousness is understood. Prime Minister is coming back, all the cabinet minister who have to head the CCS, because Cabinet Committee of Security is going to decide any major action which has to be taken. And everybody has to be on board because every action, every major action has a certain pros and cons have to be evaluated and discussed upon. So that's the reason as to why all the ministers who compose CCS are coming back, even if they were abroad.
Right.
So that's one part of it. Secondly, as far as the internal part is concerned,
Yeah.
I'm sure the coordinate search is on. The intelligence setup would have been activated. Grid pattern of surveillance as well as search would be on for collaborators, because as of now, I think the most important thing is to catch the collaborators and the terrorists and establish irrefutable link with Pakistan. We have no doubts, and nobody has any doubt that Pakistan Army is the biggest terror organization, and Asif Munir must pay for what he said a couple of days back, which is the main trigger, and which perhaps is the sequel of the series of actions which have taken place, because it's a very well planned attack. It's an attack wherein I think a fair amount of recce has been done. And as was mentioned by your colleague, TRF is basically a show window for the LET, and uh, to for Pakistan to have the strategy of deniability and say that okay, it is a homegrown thing. So therefore, apparently, we will have to bust out this part as well before as we take other actions too. Also, in this particular case, I think the international opinion is already in our favor.
That's right.
Whatever action we take, apparently, I don't think there will be any hues and cries, even if we go whole hog to punish Pakistan and to punish the actual terrorist, which, in my opinion, is the Pakistan military, and all others are operators.
Right.
That's what I visualize.
Right. General Asthana, I'm sure, by way of your long service, long career in the Indian Army, you would have had multiple postings in the Kashmir Valley, and Pahalgam would be a spot that you would have seen a number of times. Now, help us understand for our audience here that while, of course, nobody doubts that there is going to be a link which will sooner or later be established with Pakistan, but at some level, is this also a lapse on account of our own internal intelligence?
Certainly, there is much to be desired as far as the intelligence is concerned, for the simple reason because there were a couple of indicators. We call it as battle indicators or indicators for a major action. If you start linking up the indicators, firstly, Asif Munir's speech, then the desire for Pakistan military to divert attention, then Vice President of United States being here, and Prime Minister Modi being in Saudi Arabia. Now, every time, last time when President Trump came, there was a protest, and it started a day earlier and it finished a day later.
Right.
Similarly, before that, also when President Obama came, there was some action. So there is a pattern that whenever the American head of state or a person of the similar stature, which happens to be vice president in this case,
Yeah.
people have to be cautious. Secondly, a fair amount of recce would have been done, because this spot which has been selected
Uh-huh.
is a spot where the vehicles cannot reach. So therefore, terrorists know that immediate reaction by security forces is not possible.
All right.
Similarly,
So is it
that's
fair
how
to
the
assume,
target would
General
have been.
Asthana, that even the terrorists themselves would have taken that hike by foot and would not have actually taken vehicles to that spot?
Certainly, because in that particular case, for the recce, they would have gone with on vehicles as close as possible,
Right.
and subsequently they would have recce'd on foot, and they would have certainly stayed in Pahalgam. So there will be leads, and that's why I said that the Indian intelligence agencies as well as the surveillance agencies and people who are searching, they will have to bracket them into various grids and various areas, and in each area they will have to find where were the sympathizers. There has to be some money trail, like when USS said that okay, they are with us. I think we can also request them for some kind of satellite conversations
All right.
which have taken between these fellows and the Pakistani masters and handlers.
Right.
If we can get those conversations, perhaps we may be able to establish the linkage faster,
All right.
and that will give more credential and logic to our action, which I'm sure we would be taking in some manner or the other. There are a lot of options as far as the overt actions are concerned, whether we start taking on the terror camps, or we start taking on some other things, or we impose a cost on Pakistan military. They've already broken the ceasefire a number of times to infiltrate the terrorists. We can now go whole hog. And the Pakistanis are also stressed. Military is also stressed to both sides. They are there on the western border. We can activate this border as well. I don't mean to say that we should start a war or something like that, but
Right.
that cost has to be imposed, whether it is by fire assaults, into various terror camps, or there are a whole lot of technological innovations available, whether it is missiles, drones, etc., etc.
All
So I
right.
am sure the people who are in uniform, people who are in political hierarchy, people who are in intelligence agencies, they will synergize all the effort, look at the pros and cons, and take appropriate decisions as to when and how and what actions they must take. So that would be perhaps an analysis which I'm sure would be done, and
Right.
actions will be taken. But there is no doubt the underlying fact is that we have to take action. This is as far as the external part is concerned. Then
Right.
there is the internal part. These collaborators should not be let loose, and they should not be left lightly.
Right.
There is no sympathy to the collaborators. As far as I am concerned, collaborators are equally to be blamed as much as the terrorists, and
Absolutely.
therefore, and should be treated as such. By law, the UAPA is a slightly weaker law.
Right.
Earlier, we used to have quota, that was a stronger law,
Right.
and I think there are some there are a whole lot of activists who tried to protest against quota and all that,
Right.
but I think it is needed. We
Right.
need stronger laws for this as well.
Sure. Hold
Back
your
to you.
thoughts there, General Asthana. I will come back to you. Deepak, General Asthana was talking about the global sentiment being in favor of India, the global sentiment being against terrorism. And we are seeing quotes coming in from leaders across the world that they are standing with India in this difficult time, that Indian tourists in Jammu and Kashmir, and the sentiments of the people of India at large, which have been dented by way of this dastardly attack in the Kashmir Valley. This also comes at a time when the sentiment is not as much in favor of Pakistan. So, in your reading of the situation, do you believe that India has the diplomatic global go-ahead to end this matter once and for all in a very decisive manner?
I think, Karthik, one way to look at it is that the rules of the game have changed since October the 7th, the attack on Israel. So since then, the rules have changed, and the new global order actually does not tolerate or has little tolerance for such activities as Pakistan has been conducting for decades now. Furthermore, let's look at Pakistan's situation. This is a country that is, coming apart at its seams. It has problems in virtually every single state of the country today. But Pakistan seems to be doing this so as to divert attention. We must understand that the only reason deter for the Pakistan army is this supposed threat to India. And India is the bugbear with which it seeks to unite all the differing and often bickering factions in the Pakistani state. So in the last few months, you've seen General Munir, steadily raking up his rhetoric. At the same time, you may recall that less than 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was the Pakistani army actually broke ceasefire, attempted to lay mines. There have been attempts at infiltration of militants, and then you see these attacks. So there is definitely a pattern that is emerging. Insofar as what kind of an action that the Indian government will take, so the Indian government has the diplomatic, political and economic capital to go forth on any venture. However, it will be very deliberate and methodical in what it wants to do and what ends it wants to achieve. While I discount the possibility of a whole war, there will definitely be some sort of punishment. And the fact is that the Pakistanis seem to be expecting it. There are reports that Pakistani air bases have been activated, and they are in general expecting a response. But we must also understand that that may be perhaps what the Pakistan army wants, because that will bring it into the limelight once again for good reasons.
Absolutely. Maybe for good reasons, maybe not. But General Asthana, that's a valid point. If Pakistan, despite the fact that it may be on some level of preparedness, at the end of the day, Pakistan is going to deny it. Like Pakistan denied the attack in Pulwama, like Pakistan denied having any reason to believe that it was pretty much responsible for the hideouts in Balakot. And all the surgical strikes, the two of them, that one the Indian Army did, the other that Indian Air Force did in Balakot, seemed to still find some resistance from Pakistan, saying that Pakistan was not harboring these terrorists. So Pakistan is going to stay in a state of denial. How does India overcome that?
See, Pakistan's denial doesn't matter because we don't have to convince Pakistan that you did it. We have to convince the other communities, we have to convince the rest of the world that they did it. before we take on Pakistan head on. So basically, uh, whatever Pakistan army says or Pakistan says, I don't think that will change the course of action. But certainly, we need to establish the link between the terrorist and the Pakistani handlers for the consumption of the international audience. And that will give us a fair amount of justification to do what we intend to do. So that's one part of it.
Is it likely? What is the
Secondly,
likelihood, General Asthana, of what we could potentially intend to do? You were saying a full-fledged war may not be on the table. Deepak Badana, my colleague,
yeah.
also said that he's not expecting a full-fledged war. And I doubt any side wants a full-fledged war. It is a drain on the economy. It is a drain on human lives and the lives of soldiers. But we've seen that surgical strikes in the past have not really, deterred Pakistan beyond, let's say, a period of 5 years before terrorism raises its ugly head again.
There is no doubt. See, one surgical strike is not good enough. You require to do so many other things as well. So one surgical strike did deter them for some time. It's not that no major attack took place after surgical strike for some time. But then subsequently, people do get emboldened and impatient in Pakistan military to do something big and take a chance. So basically, they have taken a chance that let's see how Pakistan, Indian Army or India reacts. So as far as the actions are concerned, it will have to be from all angles. One is the Pakistani action which we are talking about. The second is the internal action, which I am very much concerned because, like it or not, let's be quite objective about it. The attack has taken place in our territory. It cannot happen without the collaborators. These collaborators need to be eliminated and punished well and proper. And it has to be a demonstrative punishment so that others also think 100 times before collaborating with the terrorist. And it has hit the livelihood of Kashmir. And I'm sure the Kashmiri people also now need to wake up and see that these terrorists cannot be your friend by any stretch of imagination. And as far as the religious part is concerned, provoking religious disharmony, I don't think that it has succeeded. It has certainly not succeeded because everyone A to Z is condemning the attack. So that's one part of it. As far as punishing Pakistan is concerned, some certain leaders must go. And I think it's enough time. I need not name those leaders, but then the fact is that they have been there, and our covert actions so far have not been successful. So, as you said, that other earlier the things have not materialized, or the surgical strike have not been able to have been deterrent enough to stop further attacks. I am sure all these terror groups, their leaders have no right to exist. And wherever they are, anywhere in the country, I think the Indian agencies must get after them and must get them eliminated. Uh, we need to look at various other options, like the case of pagers, that anybody which Israelis did. So now we have a whole lot of lessons learned from what others have done, and a lot of it can be replicated by us as well, because we are also a technologically advanced country. We have a fair amount of technologies, and all those who have mastered that technology, they are also on our side. I am sure some kind of expertise can be utilized from whatever Israelis did and whatever others did. So I think it has to be step further. It can't happen that okay, Hafiz Saeed is or likes of Hafiz Saeed or Maulana Masood Azhar are still beyond reach. So we will have to increase our reach if that be the case. So anybody like Americans, what they are doing, whenever, as far as ISI is concerned, they know that they have to sort out ISIs. Which whoever is the leader who comes up, they knock off the leader straight away. And they continue to do so. I think we will also have to adopt policies of this kind, that it has to be repeated attacks. The moment any terror group which is coming up against us, similarly like TRS, everybody associated with TRS, wherever he is, he should be knocked off. That is the kind of response which is required. So this is the response plus which I am talking about. Certainly, I am not a warmonger, and I certainly don't subscribe to the idea that we should go for an all-out war for reasons which are not uh, sufficient enough uh, for a war, because war has got a cost, internal cost, and that will at least that will put Pakistan military into a stronger position,
Right.
because they will be able to tell their people that, okay, I am the person who is the protectorate of the country, and therefore you please follow and give me all the levers of power. Now that is something which we don't want to happen.
Right, absolutely. Well, I'll bring back Deepak Badana into this conversation. Deepak, I want to understand from you and from your reporting that you've done from, from the Indian Armed Forces and the technology which is available, because General Asthana was talking about technology. Is the Indian setup using technology to its hilt, whether we are talking about cyber security, whether we are talking about drones, or any other advanced technology that General Asthana was referring to? Do you believe that we are actually deploying technology to the hilt, and hence perhaps we can have a stronger response going ahead?
Definitely, Karthik. See, the pace at which technology is being incorporated into our ops today is increasing by the day. But we still have a long way to go. We must understand that we have one of the largest militaries in the world, and equipping the entire force with state-of-the-art technology will take some amount of time. I'm not even talking about the finances yet, but so it's a slow and steady process. However, we must see that the kind of technology that is adapted and the way that it's used in the field. For instance, drones are generally considered a good option, but in the dense jungles of the Pir Panjal, the drone often comes out, with problems of its own. For instance, the cover is so thick that it's difficult to see who is on the ground, even with the drone, while at the same time your drone would alert the people who are already in hiding about your presence. So the way technology is going to be used will differ in differing conditions. However, when it comes to, say, cyber security, when it comes to surveillance, yes, a lot of improvement has been made. Kashmir, for that matter, has one of the strongest security grids, which is why you don't see a lot of terrorist attacks now. Whenever attack happens, the area is cordoned off, and there is a whole set of protocols that are put in place, which is why a lot of these attacks were happening south of Srinagar, around the Pir Panjal area. So yes, technology is in place, more is coming in, but there is still some way to go. And it'll be finally up to the commander in the field as to how he would want to utilize the different resources that are at his disposal.
It will eventually be up to the commander, and it will be up to the political will as well to decide on the extent by which India wants to go ahead and punish those who are behind this attack.